Going now to our next speaker. It's the President and CEO of the Hellenic Development Bank, Athina Chatzipetrou. The industry has changed, and there are many now requirements for banks. The banking sector is going through a complete transformation as they're trying to adopt principles for responsible banking and other initiatives that are not so much imposed, but also addressed by the stakeholders. Investors, institutional investors especially, we have the clients, we have the borrowers. It's the risk, right, that needs to be addressed through these issues. The adoption of environmental and social management system of the banks. It's now all these things are getting integrated into the banking system. And when we're talking about a development bank, it's very interesting to see, especially a newly formed one. Athina has been in her role for less than a year, and they've already actually implementing such things and giving away products in the market that we're going to help this transition to a low carbon economy and a sustainable business. So without any further ado, I would like to give the word to Athina. Athina is also here with us, presenting live next to me, like 3 meters. And it's going to be something that we look forward. Athina, the floor is yours.
Good morning to all. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this great event, Michali. I will start with a statement. The immense negative externalities caused by the COVID-19 pandemic require the strengthening of collaboration between public and private players to support the Greek economy today. In February 2020, when we started in HDB as new management, our agenda was purely towards the transformation of the former fund, ETEAN, and the creation of the new Hellenic Development Bank. The economic framework in the country was also much different. Greece was struggling for nearly a decade to recover the global financial crisis, and for the past couple of years, the country was finally past the recession and established a healthy economy ready to grow again, ready to attract investors, ready to build a new business model focusing on local products and entrepreneurship. When the pandemic of COVID-19 hit, the needs and priorities of the Greek economy and consequently of HDB had to readjust and change remarkably. From day one, the government set a single economic priority: to restore the liquidity in the economy. And HDB was called upon to act with any means and tools that were available at that moment and achieve the aforementioned goal. The pandemic has been a catalyst for us in HDB, changing our way of doing business, and in reality has accelerated our reform plan substantially. During the lockdown, and despite having to deal with a very unstable and quite unprecedented period, in less than 3 months, HDB managed to design and roll out 2 innovative and effective financial instruments. The size of the stimulus in HDB from April to December will be €9 billion and is higher than ever before. Now that the government, together with Europe, are focusing all efforts to put forward a successful, sustainable recovery plan, and the Greek banking system needs to partner up in this effort, we should, as a financial institution, concentrate all efforts to ensure that new financial instruments and policies are put in place to lead the country out of the current crisis and towards its sustainable recovery agenda. Within this context, at HDB, we fully acknowledge the need to develop what we call a triple bottom line approach: profit, planet, people. We will incorporate the agenda in our corporate culture, operations, and of course, means of doing business. Accordingly, we recognize and work to remove bottlenecks in key areas, including, but not limited to, innovation, to credit, to leveling up collateral and guarantees, channeling the public funds, and sustainable investments. These are some of our main priorities to contribute to our country's sustainable recovery. On that note, we plan to launch new thematic financial instruments related to what we call green financial, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and sustainable growth in the coming months, of course. HDB, a dedicated green package for the next period, will include initiatives in low energy consumption culture within the bank. And in addition, HDB is planning to dedicate green products, including green bonds, which may be designed following best practice adopted by the World Bank, for example, a dedicated fund earmarked for young startups operating in the renewable energy sector. We will launch a green guarantee scheme channeled by our partners, the Greek commercial banks, to help Greek SMEs and mid-caps to go green. Loans that can be used to finance a range of projects in areas such as energy efficiency, green transport, sustainable food, waste management, and green asset finance energy efficiency mortgages, including alternative energy venture capital and eco-savings deposits. We are designing our products while screening what our partners do. We are sharing best practices. For example, we are inspired by the recent loan program financed by EIB in the area of water and waste management, a 600 million loan provided to Spain through which millions of citizens will be benefited. This is the type of financing that Greek citizens deserve, and we should become able to provide in the most efficient manner. HDB is continuously discussing with others in the industry, including international financial institutions, as well as multilateral development banks, such as EIB, EBRD, Black Sea, a Trade and Development Bank. We want to identify our market gaps and build recovery instruments. We strongly believe in partnerships and look forward to work with development institutions to launch products that target sustainable development in our country. We in HDB, we have a clear vision. We want to be the key development institution serving green enterprises, needs to innovate and succeed, fostering fair, inclusive, and sustainable growth. This vision is in line with our country's strategy for growth. Our mission will first and foremost be to assist Greek enterprises being present throughout their entire life cycle, while at the same time promoting the Greek business environment. In HDB, we exist to serve not the interest of the financial sector, as most of commercial banks, but rather those of the SMEs and society as a whole. From our perspective and statute, the need to launch financial initiatives earmarked for the economy's sustainable recovery is more pressing than ever before in order to build a stable environment in Greece. As follows, sustainable growth and Greek recovery are two of the major priorities in our next steps. These priorities demand national, European, and global partnerships, which are the areas of HDB is focusing currently. We look forward to putting in place a promising sustained recovery agenda and welcome collaboration in public and private partnerships to realize our goal. At present time, though, our bank, together with Greek ministries, public entities, commercial banks, is focusing on the support of sustainable recovery of the Greek entrepreneurship through dedicated and interconnected activities with a sizable stimulus of 9 billion new loans to the Greek entrepreneurship until the end of the year. Thank you very much for the participation, Michaeli.
Thank you very much for this introduction to what the Hellenic Development Bank is going to do. And I have a question for you from the audience. You said that you're going to put out in the market some new tools and products that have also some sustainability characteristics. Do you think the Greek companies are ready for that? I mean, how are you going to evaluate the readiness and if these products could be applicable to them and you can be used, and if they can absorb the funding that's going to be done through these products? What is that the Greek companies should be already doing in order to be able to meet you at some point?
Entrepreneurship is always ahead. Policy making has several steps. Currently, also with the recovery fund that it will be in place very soon, we need to accelerate the awareness, and we need to have very clear policies that are realizable at a very specific time frame. So acceleration of the readiness is very high in the agenda. Milestones and KPIs will be also addressed. And based on my background, that is purely corporate and private sector, I believe that it's not only a social responsibility going green, it's also a severe cut costing, and companies can realize that very efficiently. The important thing is to create products that have a value chain that have a benefit across the value chain, as we have done, for example, in the two products that have been designed during COVID. The bank exists since 2003, and I can tell you that in the last 4 to 6 months, we have put in the economy 4 times the money, the loans that have been absorbed that the bank has leveraged in the last 10 years, from 2010 until now. So the designing of the product has to meet the requirements of the market and have also a very concrete and realizable policy behind that.
Yes, first of all, it's very good that you're coming from the private sector and the corporate world, because we need more people like you in these positions. And the question is, these products must be given to bankable companies, right? And yes, unfortunately, due to the COVID consequences, there are not that many companies that are bankable. So do you see a challenge there, and making sure that the money, especially from the recovery fund, will need to come and go to the companies that really need this capital to go to the next phase?
Yes, loans addressed to bankable companies. There is, though, a mapping of the Greek entrepreneurship that we observe that has a very narrow equity. And this can change. This can change also with products. There are products that reinforce equity with, for example, consolidation, which is one of the tasks of the Greek entrepreneurship in the years to come. We have very small companies. We call them SMEs. In reality, the majority are SBPs. And in that context, it is important to create also products and policies, framework that will foster and will encourage consolidation of SBPs to medium schemes that can tolerate crisis in the near future. That is one. Second is that during this crisis, there have been additional products complementary to loans that were addressed to companies that were not bankable, such as repayable advance, επιστρεπτέα προκαταβολή. These are products that the government has put a lot of money and addressed to companies that are not bankable. There are parallel schemes, there are complementary schemes that could address to other companies. Not the same product fits all. It is a long journey. We have to believe in the green transformation and the digital transformation as well, because this is the future. And we as generation has to provide to our children and next generation a future that is completely different than what we live right now.
Yes, and just a final thought, maybe you want to comment. And you talked about the need to change culture. And that's also a very big challenge for you, I guess, about getting the right people, staff, employees, executives to assist you in this transformation of the banking system in Greece. And you also collaborate with the typical commercial banks, right? So there's got to be an alignment there as well, because they actually put your products out in the market, and they're the receivers of the thousands of applications we've received during the COVID crisis. And yeah, you want to comment on that, how this whole system will be streamlined in order to move to this next transition?
Yes, well, a development bank, and in our case, HDB, has a catalyst role. So we leverage public funds. We have a channel that is the commercial banks, and we have a market. That's why I was explaining that this is very critical. I'll give you one example of a successful product that is this guarantee scheme. Yes. This guarantee scheme has a value chain that is public money, commercial banks, and companies. The product has a very fair risk-sharing scheme, whereas at the end of the day, the bank guarantee is covering in totality of the portfolio around 30%. Mm-hmm. The companies are requested to provide guarantees of around 30%, and the remaining is the banking system. So the design is a very fair and equal risk sharing among the players, and this put us in the same, ask us to be very much aligned, because it's a win-win or lose-lose case.
And everyone is putting skin in the game.
Exactly. So this is the important thing. We need to have policies to address and satisfy the totality of the value chain. This is not easy. This is challenging, very creative, and this is part of our vision. And I can tell you that once the vision is something that is very convincing, you can motivate people. Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice. Athina, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Very thoughtful.
All the best for the remaining of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.